Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Sander and Jess Valentine.
Hey guys, Kate here. I just wanted to let you know that this week's episode is sponsored by Audible. Audible is a huge part of my sober toolbox. I love listening to books and memoirs, and it's almost like having another friend who gets it. So visit audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad for a free month. You'll thank us later.
Hi, Jess.
Hi, Kate.
Hi,
Hi,
Allie.
Allie.
Guys,
Hi, guys.
we have Allie K. Campbell on, YouTuber, TikToker, influencer, sober influencer on, and I'm really excited to talk to her today. I don't really know that much about you, but I have been consuming your content for months, and you also live in Jersey City. So if we botched your introduction, please correct us.
No, you actually introduced me better than I introduced myself, so that's pretty spot on. It feels a little bit embarrassing to call myself an influencer, but when somebody else does it, I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Well, I like LOL about it because I saw your TikTok that was like, it was the one where you did the sober influencer one, and I was
I saw that one
I was like,
too.
is that a thing? And then I was like, it is a thing.
Oh, it's so a thing. I mean, I don't really categorize myself as that type of sober influencer,
Right.
But I mean, no judgment, because I
course.
fall under there.
Yeah, I mean, let's start there, because I guess like when we started this podcast, it was like in direct response to the fact that there weren't really that many podcasts, and now there's many podcasts. So I think it's just interesting to talk about the space, since, I mean, we started this, it'll be our second year. We'll be beginning our third year like in November. So we've done it for like 2 straight years now. And like the space has just totally changed. And you're right, there is like sober influencer is a thing now. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but it's just interesting.
Right. It's kind of funny, and this is like very full circle for me, even being able to talk to you guys, and it's a little bit surreal, just because when I first decided to start the YouTube channel, and at that point, like when I first began it, it was me and my friend Abel, and it was called Young, Dumb, and Sober. And the whole gist of it was basically how to have fun in sobriety and like how to get through sobriety, not being like a 65-year-old white man in AA. And then I stumbled upon Seltzer Squad and was like, oh my God, like I'm living for this. This is exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for. Like, this is right up my alley, no pun intended. And it was just very affirming to find you guys. And then finding out that you also, were coming from Jersey City, that was amazing too. But since then, it's been like, a little bit over a year and a half, and the whole, I guess, like digital sobriety community has just completely blown up, and it's really awesome, but it's also kind of strange.
I know. Sometimes I like Jess and I talk, and I'm like, did we get like not left behind, but it's like, I feel like so much has happened. And I'm like, this is sort of a side project for us, and for other people, it's like their main, like almost like their main business. And it's, something that we've always just sort of kept as like our passion project. But really for us, it's like sober maintenance. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, does your YouTube channel and TikTok, like, I'm sure that's a main contributor into your sobriety.
Absolutely. Like, I'm glad that you guys, put it like that too, because I kind of thought that I was the only one, but it started off as like just a hobby and like a passion project and just something to do because I can't drink and get high anymore. So I might as well just go on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it became something much more instrumental to my sobriety. In any times that I've struggled about staying sober, I never would have expected it to, but the YouTube channel and like making any kind of sober content has kind of created this like accountability for me that I did not expect to have. And I was like, well, fuck, I can't get drunk and I can't get high because then I have to make a relapse video on YouTube. And granted, that was probably a lot of subscriptions. I'm not ready to sell out in that way.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's like,
well, walk us through your journey a little bit, because I was just looking through your YouTube channel again, and it looks like you celebrated a year in September. So like walk us through kind of your journey to sobriety and maintenance over the last year.
For sure. Well, I celebrated a year celebrated a year on YouTube.
Okay, got it.
But I am like 3.5 or almost 4 years sober. So I started off actually in AA, and I've listened to a lot of your guys' stuff, and I know you're kind of like not against it by any means, but also like not really your cup of tea. And that's kind of where I fall in it as well. The only thing is, for me, it's like I did it. Like I really, really drank the Kool-Aid for probably a year and a half. Like I had the service commitments, I had sponsees, I had sponsors. I was like that person that was like commenting like abrasive thing on Hollywood page. Like that was me, you know? And I've done like a complete like 180 or 360 something math since then, but I was like really, really deep in it, and something switched.
Like what changed? Was it the rigidity?
I think a lot of it was the kind of like dogmatic culture and not ever really finding a sponsor that I could click with. And I'll be the first to admit that I have issues with authority. So like just a sponsor-sponsee relationship is challenging for me from the start. But the thing that really pushed me, I think, past the point of no return was when the woman that I was working with said that it was not okay to let drug addicts in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I consider myself a drug addict. I don't consider myself an alcoholic either. I honestly just consider myself somebody in sobriety that's self-medicated and had a substance abuse issue, which does not roll off the tongue as alcoholic. But so once she said that, I was kind of like, how can I in good faith take advice from this person that I do respect and care about, who would actually tell somebody who's struggling to leave the room because they have an issue with heroin or cocaine or whatever it might be instead of alcohol. And I couldn't get past it.
And like ultimately,
yeah, that's weird. Also, like there's a lot of crossover with that. Like,
and it's very semantical, which is where I get like annoyed with the process, because it's like, this is not you're in or you're out. This is like, just don't use or drink.
Right.
Exactly. And it's like now, especially, like, good luck finding a fucking millennial that's just a pure alcoholic.
Totally.
Like there's
exactly.
doubt that like many of them exists. And so many of the people that are in AA now are actually drug addicts, but they identify as alcoholics just so Alcoholics Anonymous will let them stay.
Sure.
And it's like, it's all so weird. And I feel like unofficial, official rules. And it's just, I really don't like traditions for tradition's sake in any organization or any realm of my life. So it's like, if I'm not going to accept that in a career or a relationship or my family life, why would I accept it for my recovery? So, I mean, there's a little bit of a resentment there.
Sure.
I'm trying to still work out. But since then, it's just been kind of like a patchwork thing for me, you know?
So did you have like a period of time when you were like drifting away before you had kind of like settled into like making content for YouTube? Was that weird and lonely, I would imagine?
I was still in AA when I first started making sobriety content. And I think that actually pushed me even more out the door, because I had so many people being like, well, you better not say that you're in AA. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
interesting.
Why?
Because it's a tradition. So I think it's the 11th tradition that you have to like respect anonymity. And
I thought that meant for like the people in the rooms with you.
It does. But see, that's why it gets complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
Different opinions on it and the traditions, and everyone thinks they're right. So but he agrees with one another.
It's like Fight Club.
So I don't know. I just was kind of like, this is too much. There's too many rules.
Do you get like any hate on your sobriety videos, or is it mostly like, you know, positive reinforcement and stuff like that?
I get some hate. I actually that like the first time I actually felt like a real YouTuber was when somebody commented something really mean and aggressive towards me.
I've made it.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's positive, but sometimes people will reach out to me and be like, what you're doing with non-alcoholic beers is very irresponsible to
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, I don't understand how me drinking a non-alcoholic beer has anything to do with anybody else, but
Yeah, we
they
get
also
that.
say disclaimers, you know what I mean?
You're never going to make everyone happy.
No, I don't think I'm not going to make most people happy.
But I think that it's really cool to have like who knew that there'd be like funny sobriety content. Like it's actually like cool. Like
I think that's what's so refreshing though about us being our age and sort of in this like millennial bubble is that meme culture really came in and like turned the game. Like older people don't understand memes, and it's like the nuance of how you even can interpret meme culture is so ripe for the pickings for like this essentially that
Sure.
it just lends itself so well to reading between the lines of all the things that are going on in something so complicated like sobriety is.
It's so weird that you say that because I went to socially distanced dinner with my parents on Saturday and my mom just like asked, like kind of embarrassed. She was just like, what's a meme? And I like showed her like examples of what a meme is. And she's like, but do you make your own? And I'm like, some people do. Like I make some of my own, but a lot of people just reshare them. And then she like showed me a screenshot from Law and Order SVU. And it was just a screenshot with like closed captioning. And she said, here's a meme. I said, that's not a meme. That's just a screenshot.
That's what we call a quote.
Crack. Yeah. You're like getting there. And then my dad like chimes in. He's like, this is a meme. And it's like a picture of him that says like, I like Star Wars. I'm like, that's technically a meme, but I don't know that anybody is going to really reshare that because they're like, this guy. But
that's so cute.
I was thinking like through all this election drama, like our parents were the chainmail like generation and we're like the meme share generation. And I was like, because a lot of my friends are now getting back on Facebook and like sharing memes and it's only memes. And I'm like, isn't this just as bad? Like sort of as like share this with 25 of your friends and then make them, you know, comment their favorite quality as well. Like I feel like it's in the same vein as we get older, but memes are definitely a little bit more thoughtful at least.
That should be a thing. It should be like share this with 35 people if you're going to relapse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Something about sobriety. I can totally make a meme out of that. That sounds kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. So walk us through your journey to sobriety. Like what did it look like when you knew you had a problem? Maybe before you had a problem? Like what was the turning point? What?
Before you do, Allie, I tattooed you, right?
Did. Yeah.
Where? At JC?
Oh, well, on my arm. This is you right here. Oh my God.
Where?
Well, it's kind of weird, but it's this. It's this little
Oh, okay, JCTC. Why don't you come for a touch up? Because I'm better now.
Oh, for sure.
I just know it was years ago. And the reason why I was asking is because I was trying to place you and we probably were both not sober yet.
I was.
You were.
When was this?
Very new. Very new.
I mean, it was years ago because I was at Jersey City Tattoo. So it was a really long time ago.
You definitely weren't. I mean, in that moment, I think
it definitely wasn't. Right. But like, I definitely wasn't. Okay. Yes. It's all coming back to me now. I was like, I have to see the tattoo so I can play, like I can remember the moment. So
yeah,
okay, cool.
Too. Like I came up with like the idea. I said, listen, it's like a Scott Pilgrim thing. And I want this like portal doorway and like a around. And you were just like, here you go. And I love it. It's like still one of my favorite tattoos.
Oh, good. But whenever I see a tattoo from like 5 years ago or whatever, I'm like, why don't you come in and let me touch it up? Give it a freshen up. You can never like not freshen up a tattoo. But anyway, my question was I was just curious if we were both sober at the time or not. And I definitely wasn't because I knew I wasn't really sober when I was at JCTC. So continue with your story. I just wanted to, for my own sake, know if I was or not, if I was still a mess. And I was still a mess. Thank you.
I forgot the question.
So,
your sobriety journey.
Yeah. When did you know you needed to get sober and what did that look like?
Okay. So I kind of like knew that I had to get sober when I first started drinking around like 15 or 16 years old, because I think maybe like the third time that I drank, I got alcohol poisoning, was sent to the hospital, got my stomach pumped, like,
oh my God.
Like, yeah, it was a really awful, like, first experience into drinking, but I continued to do it. And there was also like the added layer that my biological father, not the guy with the Star Wars meme, that's my stepdad, heroin addict. So, and my mom had like a bunch of alcohol problems. So it was like, they have addictive tendencies. I feel like this is genetic, and I probably am somebody who's going to need to like stop drinking or drugging at some point in life. And then I was
very
like,
insightful of you, though.
I know, right? For a teenager,
yes,
like totally mentally ill and like not at all together. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I still did it for 10 more years, but you know, people do it for longer. So I think a lot of it was constantly getting in trouble. Like I got a DUI.
Oh, damn.
I had 19, I think.
Fuck.
It really sucked too because it was in like South Jersey, and I don't know if you guys know anything about South Jersey, but like nothing happens out there. So when somebody gets a DUI, it's like exciting, like you know what I mean? And because I was under the legal drinking age, we put a breathalyzer in my car, so I couldn't even start my car if I had alcohol on my breath, which is great. I shouldn't have been able to.
Sure.
But it stopped me from getting to work on time a lot the next day because I still had alcohol in my system.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it was a mess. I was a train wreck, but it was just kind of like things like that continued to happen. I got like kicked out of 2 different colleges just because of my behavior and just like not taking anything seriously other than partying. And eventually I was like, I need to like get myself together. I need to figure out what's going on with my mental health and like do something. And really therapy is what kind of started the sobriety journey for me, because therapist after therapist after therapist was like, yeah, you probably have all this wrong with you, but I don't think we can really get to it until you stop drinking and using drugs.
Oh, that's like, so interesting.
So
like, thank you for pointing that out.
Right.
Did you continue to party though?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely did, but with knowledge, with self-knowledge. So
with even more
like,
shame. Yeah.
They say like, a head full of AA and a belly full of beer is like the saying of like being aware that there's this other side that might be more like happy or better and still doing it anyway. That's kind of where I was at for such a long time, where I was just like, there's got to be something better than this, but I'm not quite ready to go there yet. And it wasn't until I was like 26 years old that I started dating somebody who was a recovering heroin addict, and they had relapsed. And I actually just recently listened to your guys' episode on codependency, which definitely can relate. I was going to meetings with this person to make sure they were going. So kind of possessive, not at all sane type of partner I was at the time. And while I was there, I couldn't help but listen to what they were saying. And I was like, oh shit.
This makes sense.
I'm going to need to be sober too. So that was kind of like my introduction to 12-step. And I started going to my own meetings. That relationship ended, but I kept going. And it's just been kind of like that ever since, except obviously I don't do AA anymore. But yeah, that was like 4.5 years ago. I did relapse once and went to treatment, but
what was treatment like?
Did you do like inpatient?
Yeah. It's weird to say like, oh, it was good or it was bad, because I feel like at the time part of me agreed to go because I really hated my job and I just like wanted a vacation. But because I really enjoyed it. It was nice. I was like painting horses and like getting acupuncture, and like people were doing Reiki on me, and I was like smoking cigarettes. I don't know. It was a good experience for me.
You were taken care of. I feel like that's the second part of recovery, is like letting yourself and other people take care of you.
It was really nice in that sense that I was able to just like be in this like super intensive therapy. Like they only gave us organic food, and like, I don't know, it was a little weird living with like 12 girls, but it became the norm because I was there for a month, and then I did 2 months of sober living. I was in like Atlantic City, which is like the weirdest fucking place to get sober.
Yeah.
Like,
what?
Sober in Vegas, like just bar. But it was
I guess it's by the beach. But
yeah.
Still, that's weird.
I think it's because there's just like a lot of drug use over there. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
All right. So fast forward 4.5 years later, that's major.
yeah, because I got, I think 10 months at some point, relapsed on pills, and then went back to alcohol because I was like, well, if I'm already fucked up.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah, I might as well just keep going, which again is a really problematic belief that I think stemmed from AA for me. Because like you use and you die, you use and you overuse. Like it was no middle ground. So I very much believed that. I was like, oh well, if I'm gonna go super hard because this is what these people tell me I'm gonna do, then that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
If I'm wrong,
and you have to reset your numbers anyway.
Exactly. So I needed to reset my day count when I was like almost at a year. So I was like, I might as well, go big or go home. But once I came back from treatment and kind of like, I was like, I never want to do that again. Granted, it was a nice experience. Like it was fun, whatever. Like, but I don't want to have to do any of that again. Like, I don't want to start over. I don't want to go through sobriety again. Like, I know it's a cliche to be like,
I don't either.
Sucks, but it does. It really does suck. Like, I don't want to do it. I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So
you could always do like a fucking like spa vacation where you get acupuncture and play with horses and shit. Like you don't need to
but your
have,
insurance
like,
doesn't cover that.
Good point. Does insurance even cover fucking
some
treatment? Because I think a lot of it doesn't.
Sometimes. I was lucky because I was still 26. So I was on my like you chose
Yeah, so let's talk about early sobriety because it does suck. And I mean, a lot of our squad is in and around early sobriety often. And I know this year 4 for me has been way better than year 3. Year 3 was fucking terrible. So I say this year of sobriety has been better, and I'll have...
You came into this year hard though. I remember when we were talking to Laura McCowan, and you're like, year 4 is being like stressful.
Well,
so I'm glad that you're over that hump.
Yeah, I had 4 years in February. So this coming February will be 5, which feels like an entire lifetime, but also nothing at all. So like I struggled a lot more in later sobriety, and I feel like a lot of that does have to do with the other things that come up, like codependency.
For sure. There's a saying. I always say that. I'm like, oh, there's a saying, but sometimes I really don't know if it's just something I said to myself. But I hear that 3 to 5 years, like year 3 to year 5 is like the worst. Whereas, early sobriety is like, you're so, it's so top of mind that it sucks. But by the time you're 3 years, 4 years, 5 years sober, it's like, okay, now it's not just like, oh my God, I can't pick up a drink or a drug. It's like, now I really have to start dealing with life.
Your life. Totally.
So I totally get that, how, long-term sobriety can be. It's just, they're both stressful. They both suck in different ways, but that's just life, it's just kind of taking it as it comes. And, life on life's terms is one of those sayings that I still very much stick by. That's like probably one of the main things that I've taken away from 12-step programs is like those little sayings.
Yeah. They have great sayings.
Yeah.
They have great acronyms.
For sure.
So for your like TikToks and YouTubes and stuff, like how often do you do videos?
So I do a YouTube video once a week, and I wanted to do more. But then the more I got into YouTube, the more I realized how much work it is. And it is a lot of work.
I was actually going to ask you if that's like your full-time job or not.
In the future, I would like it to be. That would be really wonderful. But based on like the research that I've done and just trying to be like a realistic human being, it's probably going to take me upwards of like 5 to 6 years to even become eligible to make money on YouTube. So up until like then, this is still a passion project, a hobby. And even at that point, it'll still kind of be more so of like a side hustle rather than a full-time job. But it is when
we get that.
Yeah. Like you guys are probably in a very similar, position. So it's a part-time job for sure, but it could easily be a full-time job. Like it takes me like 9 hours per video between like writing a script, filming it, editing it, getting it out there, then marketing it, like putting it on social media and all that stuff. And that was kind of like the beauty of TikTok for me, because all of a sudden this new platform came out that it only has like 60-second videos. And I'm like,
Yeah.
really nice to spend a half hour creating a video
Yes.
versus a half a day.
Yes.
Yeah. And it like has like the little like stop, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to edit it really. It's just like, okay.
Exactly. It's a lot more, I wouldn't say user friendly, because I do think it's still like a pretty difficult app to use, but it definitely takes less time to create content on there. And the dopamine hits come much quicker on TikTok. I think it's a lot easier to go viral on there. It's a lot easier to get followers. It's a lot easier to see content that has been really like honed in on what you like to
It's
see.
so much more thoughtful, I think.
Definitely.
Like, I think Instagram has become low-hanging fruit. It's like, I'll just put this quote up. I'll just repost this. I'll put this picture of a soda can up. And it's like, that's great. And that is helpful. But what I think TikTok lends itself to in like Instagram Reels is like, you get 60 seconds to get your really important thought or idea or concept or joke across.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you have to like cut all the extra bullshit, and it just looks and feels grittier, which is what I like.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of like a more audio visual version of Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have that character count.
Yes.
Here you have this limitation, which makes everything that you say much more important, because you don't want to say anything that is useless because you only have so much time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram has been getting like a lot more boring for me. When I realize I'm doing like the death scroll, like I always have this kind of like observation of, this is like not doing anything for me.
Yeah, this is not filling my cup. It's been hard for us too, because we're at the pivotal point where we want to get to 10,000 followers, because it just gets the ability to communicate information gets easier in stories with the swipe up, right? So you want to get to that mark, but it's sometimes we talk about like, are we even really creating value? Like our value lies in the podcast platform. Like I don't, for my job, I spend all day doing content for people. So I don't know if I also want to spend all day doing like level B content for the podcast, when I'd rather get great guests, you know what I mean? Invest more of my time in something that it just comes more natural to me, which is just have a conversation, have a good deep conversation with someone.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I do content creation as a freelancer as well.
Yeah, it burns you out sometimes. Like you get really cynical, and I feel like that's why I think maybe I like your content so much, because you have that cynicism of being a content creator, where it's like, you know, that some of it makes you want to roll your eyes, but at the same time, like I'm sure you're really exhausted of a trend before it even becomes a trend.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have this like weird kind of like nihilistic view of my entire existence. It's bizarre. And I hate being that sober like trope of like, all I do is like, wow, I'm sober. Like this fucking sucks. But like, wow, I'm sober. This fucking sucks.
Right. Yes.
You know?
It sucks, but it's also amazing.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Like I there's got to be a middle ground between like the people who are just like, sobriety's amazing, everything's great, blah, 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 blah. And then the people who are like, I am this close to offing myself. You know, like there's a middle ground there. And I try to like be that person to the best of my ability, especially when I'm creating my content. But yeah, I definitely have like a little bit of a cynical vibe to me. I think that I have a lot of Capricorn placements. I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but it means something to me.
But I think that's fair, because it's like, you don't want to just be fake and pretend like it's always sunshine and roses, because it's fucking not. So real.
I feel like sobriety, like you enter a time vacuum where time expands and contracts in a different way than drinking did. Like drinking felt, say, like the wacky, wavy, inflatable flailing arm man, because I was either like not remembering what was going on because I was drunk, or I was reacting to my life as a result of not remembering all the things that was happening while I was drinking. So it was just this like very whiplash way to live my life. And now sometimes I'm so bored I could literally cry now, because there's so much time. And especially in this pandemic, like sometimes I feel like there's so much time, like what the fuck are we even doing?
Right. Yeah. And that's where it comes back down to like, okay, guess I will either consume or create. And I try to choose creating more than consuming. But if I am going to consume, I try to be really conscious about it. You know, listen to podcasts like your guys, or like listen to, like read books that are going to like make me feel like a better person, I guess, and that kind of thing. But sometimes I'll literally just like sit in front of my Nintendo Switch and play Pokemon for like 7 hours too. So I can't,
Yeah, I feel like Kate's like the first part of you and I'm like the second part of you. I just like sit and watch shitty TV. The last time I was on TikTok, I have to take TikTok in small doses because the last time I was up until 7:30 in the morning just watching videos.
Welcome.
I did not realize the time. I'm like, holy fuck. Like I have to go to bed. Like what is wrong with me?
I set limits for myself. So if it's like 3:04, I'm like, I can watch until 3:15 and I set a timer and then 3:15 comes and then by 3:30 I usually am like, okay, I have to get off now and do something. Like I set a limit because you're right. It'll steal hours of your life. But
I have no self-control, which is why I'm sober. So
same. And I will do that as well, but like I will also go past the limit constantly, which is what I always did with alcohol and drugs.
You'll bargain.
What, like one more hour, one more pill, one more like, and then eventually I'm like, okay, you got a fucking grip now. Like put the phone down, put it down. But I totally get that. Yeah.
So what does your sobriety look like now?
Right now, my biggest recovery, I guess my recovery like program, we'll call it, is the Noble Steps. Have you guys heard of that? It is a 12-step program that is, it's not AA, obviously, but it was created in the same vein, and it has more like a Buddhist feel to it. So it's only based in New Jersey and Colorado. I went to it like a while back and just recently got back into it during pandemic because like the blessing of all of this was that like everything went online. So I was like able to go to these meetings.
So much easier.
Yeah. So that was really, really awesome. And that's what I've been doing the most frequently. So I go to like 4 to 5 Noble Steps meetings. We start off with 20 minutes of meditation.
Wow.
And then we have like what you would, I guess, call it a more traditional meeting. Like they don't make you or even suggest that you identify as anything you don't feel comfortable with. It's open to all types of recovery. Like there are people who don't drink anymore. There are people who are recovering codependents, recovering workaholics, people with eating disorders. So it's a really mixed bag, and it's much less dogmatic than other programs that I've tried and much more welcoming. So that's what I've been sticking with. I don't know how long that's going to last. Right now, it's kind of like if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like creating this content and like listening to this kind of content. And I can't escape sobriety. It's everywhere now in my life. So just like constantly there. And that's a good thing.
Right.
Because it stays fresh in my mind. But that and a really, really, really strict morning routine that if I don't abide by, I am a lump of poop for the rest of the day, which kind of can lead to being a lump of poo the next day, which can eventually lead to a depression, which can eventually lead to this, that, and possibly a drink,
Sure.
So that looks like meditation, journaling, chanting, that kind of thing, and reading. And that like keeps me grounded and keeps me very connected and plugged in to whatever I'm using for my sobriety at that time.
Yeah, that's so important. I think the steps get a bad rap because they're attached to AA, and I think every human being on earth should do the 12 steps because it gives so much back, and I think it just needs a rebrand. So I love that you're sort of attending a more alternative way of doing the steps, because I know for me, like especially in this last year of sobriety, like I really have been sort of like lightly dipping my toe into like step 4 and like the beginnings of all of that stuff, because I think you have to go in and do the work. And like you said, like in years 3 to 5, I think that's when the work of your life and all that deeper stuff confronts you. So it's mad uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
That's exciting. So what else? How's pandemic sobriety treating you?
Not great, but like not awful either. It's just kind of weird. I actually moved in with my partner right before pandemic started, and then we broke up. So we're still living together. Yeah, in the pandemic. And that is like challenging. But at this point, like going through the stuff that I've been through in my life, it's not that I'm used to things going wrong in my life, but I'm used to things going awry.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like what you were saying earlier, Kate, about like like almost like an ups and downs. I kind of like thrive on that.
Mm-hmm.
So drama and chaos, like it's just, I'm used to it in a way. Like
when your life is like baseline, you go looking for trouble.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. This wasn't the case. Like I didn't
Sure.
go for this, but when things do go not as planned or unexpected, I feel a little bit more prepared to handle them because I'm sober.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm like navigating that right now, which is shit, but it could be worse, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's a weird time. Like, I think I started at the beginning of this, like, super excited because I'm introverted. And I was just I felt so grateful that, like, life slowed down a little bit and, like, we weren't all running all over the place. And now, like Jess and I have said, you know, we really miss, like, human connection and community. And you try to do that online and it's just, there's no substitute for, like, the real thing. So I think that, like, going forward, although I'm still excited, majority of things like work and stuff is online and you have access to these other things, but I really miss like humans. I miss being in the same room with people. And I hope that is what resolves itself as we kind of go through and navigate this and get this under control. Because I do miss people more than I thought I would.
Same. I definitely found myself to be more of like an introvert, which is kind of weird because people always assume I'm an extrovert. And I think that is a content creation thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like put yourself out there online, people just assume that you're like super friendly, and not that I'm not friendly,
but you
like,
seem outgoing but you're also creating that alone. I think people don't realize that. Like when Jess and I are doing the podcast, it's like we only think we're talking to each other. We don't think anyone is listening.
That's so true. Yeah, it really is. Like it's my comfort zone because I really am it's me talking to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know eventually people hopefully will listen,
right.
But when I'm doing it, it's totally solo. But I mean, like as far as like getting back into connecting with like actual human beings, it's interesting how things kind of like work out because as a result of like this breakup that's been going on, I kind of been like, you know what, I really need to go out and like look for more like work that is meaningful to me. Like the YouTube channel is not going to sustain me until God knows when.
Right.
So, like I like it lit a fire under my ass, and I actually ended up like landing a position at a nonprofit in Jersey City helping survivors of domestic violence get help. And I'm starting my first day tomorrow, which is really, really exciting.
Oh, that's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's cool because it's like, you never know, like something that you think is negative or bad, it might be in that moment, but then later on, the things that unravel as a result of it can turn out to be really, really amazing. And it's the same way with sobriety. Like so much bad shit had to happen, but I wouldn't be where I am now if it hadn't. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise type thing.
Definitely. I love that. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a few questions that we ask all of our guests.
Sure.
And while I pull that up, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah.
Allie K. Campbell on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram. I hope at this point, if you just Google that, I'll come up. I can't confirm or deny that, but try it. Yeah, so it would be really cool to get like more subscribers on YouTube so I can get closer to them letting me live stream. Can you believe that they don't let you live stream a certain amount of people?
I didn't know that.
That's so stupid.
It's so stupid.
Also, like you guys are gonna love the content. Like if you're not already following, you have to go check it out.
You have to watch it. It's so relatable.
I remember I remember two of the guest questions. And then we'll let you go live your life. Because a lot of our squad members are new to recovery, what do you suggest? Any suggestions for like the first like 90 days or anything just to kind of like dip your toe into it? And any advice for noobs?
I mean, I'm definitely going to go ahead and suggest meetings, even if it's online.
Yeah.
It's the easiest and I think like quickest way to like build community. And it doesn't have to obviously be like AA or NA or whatever, like anything that you feel that you can build a network, like a support system. Like I know that your private Facebook page has like a huge like community there that kind of like it's close knit, you know, something like that. It was huge for me. I wouldn't have been able to stay sober had other people not helped.
Totally.
So that's a big thing. And with meetings, there's structure. So it's like, for me, I had to choose on Monday what meeting I was going to on Tuesday, put it in my calendar, set like alarms for it to let me know. So that way I would definitely go. So I would say plan your meetings ahead of time, actually go to them, and like kind of maybe like look past the discomfort of like not talking to people before and after. Try to just do that anyway, get some phone numbers. And,
what's that like in digital space though? Because I have been thinking about going to some meetings. Like I was doing CODA before, like in real life, and I was really getting a lot out of it. And then we went online, and now I'm like, I feel weird. Like I know that that's lame, but like I don't know how to show up to. I know how to show up to an internet meeting, but like, is it weird? Do you have to have your like what's the protocol here? What am I getting into?
I'm off depending on whether or not I put makeup on that day.
Right.
But I'm just go in and then I like turn my thing on and I'm like, hey, it's me.
Okay.
I'm Allie. I'm, and then I identify however I identify.
Got
that.
it.
And I like to stay after for like 10 more minutes and just like shit with people.
Got it.
And you can put your number in like the chat and be like, if anybody wants to be my friend.
Okay. So you just like be really real. Like, hi, I'm looking for friendships. Someone.
But it's awkward. I can totally see
of course.
why you feel like it's strange because you would think it's easier because it's between a screen, but it's not. It's still fucking weird.
Like the barrier of entry is a lot lower, but like it just feels a lot more intimate because you are literally alone in your house and you're like, I'm going to meet all these weirdos and I don't know what's going to happen. Like we did our first squad Zoom and we were like, we have no idea what to expect. And I'm sure these people are as weirded out as we are. Like we didn't know if 5 people were going to come, if 500 people were going to come. Like we had no clue. And I'm not organized enough yet to like have all that stuff figured out beforehand. We were like, here's a Zoom. Come if you want.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Put it out there and see what happens.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Do you have a hot mess highlight or low light that you would like to share with our squad? So not sure if you're familiar, but that's any embarrassing story that you would like to reveal that you did while you were drunk. Like I peed the bed all the time. I pulled out my IUD while I was blackout drunk one night. So that's a hot mess low light for me. And it just makes others feel less alone in their journey.
Yeah. I wish I had one prepared, but I did fall asleep during Harry Potter, to the point of like in a theater with my entire family. That was the day that I relapsed and
fell asleep or passed out.
Maybe a little bit of both. I
drifted off
out and then fell asleep.
Okay.
And they were just kind of like shaking me and trying to wake me up. And that was pretty embarrassing, especially when they think you're sober. Because it's like
right
thing to do if you're not a drug addict.
That's true.
Or, somebody who abuses substances. So that was pretty embarrassing because there were people like
was the jig up then? Were they like the jig is up?
Oh,
really?
Yeah. Somehow I was just like, oh, sorry, I was really tired. And it's like they didn't me. So it was just weird. Like this movie sucks. That's why I fell asleep. But yeah, so that was pretty embarrassing. I have way better ones that I'll have to like.
All right, if you think of one, email it to us and we'll include it in one of our roundups. What is your favorite seltzer brand or flavor?
Ooh, I really like AHA right now, but
yeah, they're good.
Kalo, I don't know.
They have it at Buy Right.
The based one, right?
Yes.
I don't know that one.
So good.
Yeah, they're really, really good. They have like a lavender lemon, which is like I love that flavor profile. So yeah.
I love that. Okay.
I can pronounce it. It's my favorite.
Okay, last question. How has sobriety changed your life, or how has your life gotten better in sobriety?
I think my life has gotten better because I have more clarity to be able to think about my reactions to things instead of just reacting. So sobriety has given me like the ability to pause and decide like what kind of person I'm going to be in the next moment and how I'm going to handle a situation that presents itself to me. Where in the past, I did not have that luxury. I was reacting however I was reacting. I was completely like a slave to my emotions and to my reactions. And now that drugs and alcohol are out of the picture, I have a choice. So feel like I have more control of my life, which is pretty nice.
I love that.
Awesome.
It's very well said.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
on.
I'm like fangirling right now. This is like, I can't wait to
Same.
show people. Like,
No.
would just like,
I'm like, how soon is too soon to email her to hang out? You can expect that later today. All right. Well, squad, make sure you subscribe to her YouTube channel and follow her on TikTok and Insta. You will not regret it. And until we meet again,
Be nice to yourself.
don't forget, hangovers
suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.